All right, we are going to start with an overview of transaction management. And today what we'll be talking about is we're going to talk about how to navigate to the transaction list, and we'll look at the cardholder view, approver view. We'll look at how to filter and sort transactions, how to view transaction details. We'll look at attaching a receipt or document, how to dispute a transaction. We'll look at the mobile app, knowing what to do if a transaction is declined. We'll look at the transaction detail report and where to locate resources. Let's first look at how to navigate to the transaction list, and we'll look at the cardholder view. So this is the cardholder home page, and the cardholder in the middle of the screen, they have information about their card so they can see their current balance, their credit limit, and their available credit. Over on the right-hand side, they have quick links. And if they don't see the quick links, they can turn them on by clicking Manage Homepage Settings. And then here, the last two links, they can quickly get to their last cycle transactions, as well as view open transactions. And then down at the bottom in the middle of the page is a list of the last 10 transactions that posted to their account. So we're going to click Transaction Management. And then here, cardholders can also click this link to view their previous cycle or to view pending transactions. So these are ones that are open since the last cycle date. But I'm going to click Transaction List and we'll look at that. Up at the top of the screen, you can see the card account information, and then you can see the card account summary, so the last 4 digits of the account number. And here you can see it defaults to the open billing cycle close date, and you can select this link here in order to select a different billing cycle date, and then the transactions display in a list below. So we're going to talk a lot about this transaction list today. But first, I'd like to show you how approvers and program administrators will view the transaction list. So the transaction management page is the starting point for you to manage the transactions. And up at the top, if you have more than one managing accounts that you are responsible for as a program administrator, you'll see this view. And here you can click on managing accounts and view all the information for those managing accounts. And you can then drill down to the associated card accounts for each managing account. If you do have one managing account that you're responsible for, you'll see the card account list. And so approvers or program administrators may see this view, and this is where you can click on, and then it gives you a list of all of the card holders under that managing account, and then you can drill down to the particular card holder information that you want. And then you will also have the transaction list on your screen that you can click on that, and then you can search for a particular cardholder account. So if you click on Managing Account List, you'll then have a list of all of the different managing accounts that you are responsible for. Now, all cardholder accounts will roll up to a particular managing account. So if we do click on one of these managing accounts, then we get to the cardholder account summary. And so this lists all of the different cardholder accounts that roll up to this managing account. And up at the top, you can see a summary of how many card accounts and information about the total transactions. And then you can click on a particular account number, and that drills you down to the transaction list. So up at the top, you'll see the card account number, and then you'll see the card summary with the transaction list at the bottom. So those are the ways that you get to the transaction list. Let's look at how to filter and sort the transaction list. So when you're on the transaction list, up at the top, you'll see the card account summary. If you are a program administrator and you are on, it does remember the last card account that you looked at. So if you want to look at a different card account, you just click the Switch Accounts link, and cardholders won't have that link on their screen. And then as a program administrator, you can quickly move back to screens by using the breadcrumbs up at the top of the screen. You can collapse and expand different sections of the screen by clicking the little minus or plus sign. And then the first thing to do is to figure out which billing cycle close date you want to work with. It automatically defaults to the open cycle since the last cycle date. So for instance, if you just went past your cycle date just a couple days ago and you want to view all those transactions, you would open up this menu and select the prior billing cycle date and click search. And then the next section down is a search criteria, and you can open it and close it by the little plus or minus sign. And here you can choose to filter the table by transaction amount, by purchase ID, by approval status, pullback eligibility. You can see if there's any disputed transactions. And also you can display more than 25 on the list, up to 200 on the list at a time, so that you don't have to page through them. Now there also is an advanced search. If you click that link, you have additional fields to search by. So you can put a date range for your transactions, or you can put a range, so a dollar amount from this amount to the next amount. So if you don't know the exact amount, you can use the range. And then also, you can see it has merchant name. That's the one that's different as well. So you can search by merchant. And then you click the search button, and the transactions at the bottom of the list will display according to your search criteria. Now, most of the time when cardholders come in here, they're either viewing their transactions from the open cycle or from the prior cycle. So usually those are the search items that they use to filter this list. You can click the blue links to go to further detail tabs, and depending on which one you click, it takes you to a different tab. You can sort the list by clicking on a column header. So if you want to sort it by merchant to see all the same merchant information together, or sort it by amount in order to find a particular dollar amount, you can. Now this checkbox, what this does is it allows you to select a particular item or more than one item, and then use a button down at the bottom of the page, which you don't see on this slide. Next, the status column. If there is a dispute on a particular transaction, it will have a little D icon with the circle around it. The next is approval status, and most of you on this call will not be using approvals, so you can ignore that. And then the next column here that you look at is the transaction date. So that's the date the transaction happened. You can see the date that the transaction posted in Access Online, the merchant name, merchant city. You see a dollar amount. If it's a credit, you see a little CR icon next to it. In this next detail column, if the merchant sends through a particular level of detail, you'll see a little circle with a Roman numeral 1, 2, or 3, depending on the level of detail the merchant sent. If they sent through level 3 detail, that means that there is line item information on the transaction, so you can tell what was purchased. In the next column, a little E with a circle around it will appear if this information was extracted to another system. There is a transaction or purchase ID The next column gives you allocation information. So if a cardholder reallocated, then you'll see the little A icon. And most of you on this call will not be doing allocations. If you have attachments turned on so that cardholders can add an attachment, you'll see a little paperclip icon here. And then if they have added an attachment, you'll see a little PDF icon. We will look at that process today. If there were comments, you'll see an indicator here. And if you're using accounting codes in the system, you'll see either a default accounting code here to which the transaction was allocated, or a cardholder can reallocate. So this is the transaction list. You can select all the transactions on a page by going down to the bottom, and there's a check all shown. And you can uncheck all of them shown. And this also keeps track of the item that you just looked at or you just worked on by putting a little black arrow in front of the row that you just worked on. Also, I like to point out that there might be more than one page of transactions. And so cardholders need to be aware of that and look for the page indicator at the top or bottom. Let's look at the details of a transaction. So to view the details, you click on a link in the transaction date field. And then you can see up at the top, you see a summary of that particular transaction. So the merchant information and the dollar amount, and if there's an attachment. And then you have a series of tabs that you can use to view information about the transaction. And then here you can also create a PDF of this transaction if you want to send the information to someone so they can look at it. There's approval button. We're also going to talk about the dispute button here as well. So if you choose to print the transaction, you can get a PDF of it that you're able to send to someone to maybe ask them a question or if they want to see information about that transaction. And the different tabs that you have available are based upon what your organization has implemented. So we're going to talk today about several of these different tabs and what cardholders can use them for. So let's talk first of all about attaching a receipt or a document. To attach a receipt, it's pretty easy. You just click on the paperclip icon in the attachment column. And then in the middle of the screen, you click the Add Attachment button. And you can attach PNGs, JPEGs, or PDF files to a transaction. It does convert them all to a single PDF after upload. There's no limit to the number of attachments that you can put on the transaction. However, the maximum size is 5 megabytes for all the files included. Once you've clicked the icon, then you locate your receipt on your computer and select it and click Open. And then it attaches to the transaction. You can see a thumbnail of what that receipt looks like. You can add another attachment and then you'll be able to see thumbnails of all of them on there. And if you want to, you can select one and delete it if you attach the wrong one. So you can add multiple attachments. It creates them into one PDF and then click Save. And then it puts a little PDF icon next to the transaction so that you'll be able to click on that PDF icon and open it up and view it. So approvers or program administrators, as you're looking at cardholder transactions on this list, you can click that and open it up and view their transaction. So I'm going to pause here and ask, what questions do you have before I move on?
Hi, Melody. I just was curious about the attachments. Do you know, for the state of Colorado, these attachments are going to be included? Will they roll with our interface or they will only stay within US Bank?
So they do not go over to another expense system. So if you are extracting transactions and putting them into another system, organizations will do is then you'll have the cardholder go into that other system and attach receipts there or do any coding or of expenses in that other system. So did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, what other questions do you have?
Yes, hi Melody. You showed us briefly how to print some transaction detail on one of the transactions. My question is there a capability to do that for, let's say, all transactions for a single cardholder? Is there a way to print them all, or do we need to go in and do them one by one?
No, you don't need to do them one by one. Let me scroll up here and show you oh, right here. So if you want, there's reporting that you can run a report if you want to print all their transactions. But here, if you click this print account activity button, it will print everything on the list for that cycle.
Okay, even if there's multiple pages, it should get everything on that
Yep,
site.
it
Okay,
will get everything. Yep. Yep, and
great,
that
thank
one
you.
also has like on the last page, it has a place for cardholders to sign. So some organizations have cardholders, if you're still on a paper-based system, they'll have cardholders print that out and sign it.
Okay, yes, thank you. That helps.
Melody, can you say how long, what's the time frame we will be allowed to view and access these PDF that we attached?
Yes, so you can view the current cycle and then up to 12 cycles in this transaction management section here, but through reporting, I'll show you the transaction detail report, you can get up to 6 years of history going back. Good questions. What else? All right, let's move on and then I'll pause again for questions. To dispute a transaction, cardholders can either call the bank or they can come in here and they can click on the transaction date and then scroll down on the summary tab and click the dispute button. And then it reminds them up at the top that if they don't recognize this transaction, it's fraud. So they need to call the bank. Otherwise, if it's a dispute, they can come down here and they can select the reason for the dispute. And so there's quite a few different reasons that they can select. Then they click the select button. They will get a form up at the top. It tells the reason that they selected, and then it's a different form depending on what they selected, but they'll need to put in all of the information with the star it's required. They'll need to put in all the information and then click continue, and that's submitted to the bank right away. A few of them, they may need to also fax information to the bank, and if that's the case, the form will tell them to fax that information to the bank. So once they have added a dispute, it does show up with the little D icon around it, and then that follows this transaction throughout the life of the transaction, and you all will be able to see it on reporting to see which items have a dispute on them. There is a mobile app for cardholders to view transactions. They can download it from the Apple App Store or Google Play Store. They do need to have their organization short name, and if they have a user ID and password for access online, they'll need to have that handy as well, or they can register for the app and be able to get into it that way. And then once in the app, they can click the View Transaction List from the menu. If they have more than one card, they'll see them listed. They'll click the card that they want, and then they'll view a list of their transactions. They're able to sort the list or search for something on the list. They can click the search button. They can search by merchant, date, or dollar amount, and then locate the transaction that way. Or they can sort by date, amount, or merchant, and then select the transaction that they want. And then They can attach receipts through the mobile app by clicking the little paper clip, and then they can either take a photo or locate it from their gallery. So if they take a photo, it opens up so they can take a picture of it. Or if it opens the gallery, then they can select the item that they want to attach. And they can also process disputes. So they locate the transaction and click the dispute button, and then they select a reason, fill in the form and click submit. And then once they've added a dispute, it provides that information on the transaction in the mobile app. Declines, what to do if it's a decline? Well, cardholders, what they can do, most of the time they're not going to look it up in the system, but I'm going to show you how to so you can look it up in the system. Most of the time they'll contact customer service using the number on the back of the card. So that's their first line of defense, to ask what's going on, why isn't my card being accepted? There are a few reasons why they might need to contact you. For instance, if they need a limit increase on the card, or if they need a merchant opened up on the card, they will need to contact you for that type of permission. So how you will look up declines on the system, click on account information along the left navigation pane, and then click on, you'll need to search for the cardholder account and click on their account profile. And then you have two options there, to view the account profile or to view account authorizations. So click account authorizations and then click the date and time stamp for the decline. And then you're going to look at the decline tab, and it will tell you a code and the reason. So this one here was declined because it exceeded the account single transaction limit, or it will tell you it was declined because it's a blocked merchant category code. It will give you the merchant category code here so that if you want to, you can go into their card account and open it up. Or on this one, it exceeded the single transaction limit, so then you could go in and you could increase the single transaction limit for that card. And in the PowerPoint, there are some common decline reasons and what to do about them. So if you see CRV status, means the card isn't activated, the cardholder should activate the card. And then on the next page, there are decline reasons and what should be done. A lot of these chip card reasons, they just need to run the card again because something went wrong with the terminal. So in that case, customer service is able to tell them to just have the merchant run the card again. Now, there is a quick reference guide out on our web-based training site that does provide a list of all of the reasons and the codes. So you can look for that under Work with Transactions and then go to the Quick References tab. I wanted to talk about transaction reports. The most comprehensive one out there, you click on Reporting and then click Financial Management. And then you're going to scroll way down to the bottom over on the right-hand side, and the transaction detail is the one that you want to check out. And you'll fill in all the different parameters. So you'll need to fill in the cycle that you want and the card information that you want, or the managing account hierarchy that you want. And then that will give you a list of all transactions. So if you run it for one cardholder, you'll see their information, or if you run it for a processing hierarchy, you'll see all the transactions for that managing account, for that hierarchy in the list. And you'll be able to select allocation information so that you can view all that allocation. You can also view merchant detail as extra different types of detail on that report. So check that report, and then there's one like a couple below it called a transaction summary report. And that transaction summary report, if you run it in PDF, you're able to open up and view receipts from that report in PDF. If you run it in Excel, you'll be able to see if there is a receipt on it because it has the name of the receipt PDF. So then if you're looking for resources, you click on, you can go to Contact Us to view contact information. You can click on Training to find additional resources. So if you click on Training, you'll see that there are lessons, user guides, videos, quick references, recorded classes, and certifications are tests. And you're actually going to click on Work with Transactions to find information about transaction management. Over on the left or over on the right, there is a place to enter a keyword and search for it, and it will pull up information that you can click on and open up. So from here, what you can do is you can just open something by clicking on the title, or you can select it and then click on Start Training to start your training items, or you can also select it and add it to a learning plan and then go to your training learning plan in order to take the courses. The quickest way to do it though is to open these up and then just click on the title to open the resource. All right, thank you so much for attending today, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.